Hello, I'm Cormac. You're listening to Queerly Beloved, supported by Amazon Music. In this series, I invite DJs and musicians, friends and allies from the LGBTQ+ community to talk about music, queerness, and anything else that shaped their unique story. My guest today is Beth Ditto. Wow. Now, what can we say about Beth? Beth is a queer icon of our times. She is a multifaceted talent as a singer, a writer, an author, and an actress. Her visibility, whether on stage, on a fashion campaign, or on the cover of a magazine, has always sparked debate. I first witnessed her band Gossip back in the early noughties, and I was completely blown away. I was wondering how that mammoth sound came out of just 3 people. I've been a fan ever since and was absolutely thrilled when Beth accepted my invite to come on the podcast. You can find a playlist for all the music mentioned in today's episode and every episode at the link in the episode description. So here's me chatting with the one and only Beth Ditto.
Warning, this is very lo-fi, but what the fuck did you expect?
Who are you? How do you identify, and what is it that you do?
My name is Mary Beth Ditto. I am staunchly Southern. Sometimes it's not a good thing. I'm a daughter and a sister, part of the community, and I'm not graceful. I'm loud, but I really love beautiful, tender things, but I love them very hard. Like, I'm a hard hugger. You know what I mean? Like, when I hug people, my little baby niece, her mom, Kathy's like really gentle touch, and bless her heart, she'll come over here and like, she'll get out of the bath and her skin's dry, and I'm like, do you need lotion? She'll be like, yeah, lotion. And she'll be like, Andy Beth, you're doing it too hard. And I was like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Like, so I'm not graceful. I'm a bull in a china shop. But I used to have this thing where I'd be like, Mama, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I was existential crisis at like 7. And she'd be like, well, honey, you're just Beth. And I remember asking her about my coming out story to her because it was very, very anticlimactic. I wasn't really that scared. It was just like more embarrassed to be like, God, do we have to have this conversation? And I remember asking her about it. I was like, Mom, do you remember me coming out to you? I was like, were you surprised? I was like, did you think I was gay? I had a high school boyfriend for 3 years. And she was like, no. And I was like, she's like, did you think I was straight? She's like, I never thought about it. And I was like, well, what did you think? She was like, you're Beth.
That's so beautiful.
Like, I think she was just like acknowledging that she's like, you're like a little, like a lightning bug. You're a lightning bug in a bumblebee body. I think that's what she was like, you glow, but you're dozy and not graceful. And you don't always say the right thing in the right moment. But so I feel like I'm Southern, I'm queer. My gender, like I'm a woman. I'm open to any suggestions, but I always feel very, very, very grateful and lucky that I am happy in the body and and with the socialization based on my gender that I was assigned. I'm always like, wow, I'm happy that this fits me. Like, I like all of this that goes along with it. But the struggle for me was always like being in my body. I'm definitely fat. But I think when I think about it, the way I want to be remembered is like, well, she tried. Like, she tried.
I have to get some things out of the way first before we talk, because I would be lying if I said I wasn't like a total fanboy, and the fact that you would take time at all, never mind when you're busy, to come and like join me on the podcast, which is really quite a new thing. It's so kind of you. Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure and a joy. I'm just really grateful for your existence and what you do and your knowledge and teaching me something.
When did you know you had a voice?
I knew young. I knew that like, I had a lot of siblings, and there's 3 years. My big sister's 3 years older than me, and my little brother is 7 years younger than me. And then I have a sister who's 11 years younger than me, another brother who's 8 years older than me, and 2 brothers on the other side too. Whatever. So the attention was like very limited. My mom worked her fucking ass off. Different people, different boyfriends and stuff came in the house. Like steady in a way, but it was chaotic because it was just like, we didn't have money. We never had a phone, like things like that. So like there was a lot of time to kill. Like living in the 80s and 90s in Arkansas for a family like ours was like living in the 70s, living in the 80s. It was like that was our access to things. There was no, you didn't have like access to pop culture or whatever. So like you had to entertain yourself. And I think because it was a lot of chaos and I was a loud kid and I couldn't help myself. I had so impulsive. If something was in my mind, I had to fucking say it, And then having a personality like that and still being loud and whatever and nobody noticing, like you could be like, blah, blah, blah. Like you could be like hanging out a window being like, blah, 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 like banging on the glass. Like there's a cat in your arm, you're like playing it like an accordion. There's like, but like it didn't matter how much noise you made or whatever you did. There wasn't enough attention to go around. Plenty of love. So I think that when I was a little bitty kid, my mom, older brothers, like my older brother especially, used to play drums for like, as a 14-year-old kid, used to do the riverboat casino circuit and play drums for my cousin. This is a 14-year-old kid and he did it for like years. And they would go and play with like Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and shit.
Wow.
I mean, this is the 80s. Like I told you, I'm like, this is the 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. So he was really musical. And I think like he was my cool older brother. He listened to hair metal. He played music, he smoked. And I remember there were a few moments my mom would be like, listen to her. She's singing. She knows all the words to like Frosty the Snowman and she's doing it. Like she's actually singing it, and that was like sweet. But I remember my brother being like, Mom, come in here. And he was probably like 14 or like, 13 or 14. It's probably around 4 or 5. I don't fucking know. Math, who cares? Not relevant. And he was playing. And he played and he went, bah, and I was like, ba-da-da-da-da. And I just wrote a little song with him. And he was like, Mom, do you hear that? And he'd be like, Beth, sing this. Or he'd like hum a note. And I'd be like, duh. And he'd be like, Mom, do you hear that? She's like, and I was a fat kid. I was a weird kid. I was loud. I was obnoxious. I was really needy, but I also didn't wear that on my sleeve. And I had to be doing something all the fucking time.
Mm.
So like having that moment with like my brother and my mom being there, and then my dad really liked it too,
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me positive attention. And I think what a big deal it was to be acknowledged for something good, not being told to be quiet or like quiet down. And also in school the youngest I can remember, like kindergarten, every report card would be like, joy to have in class, cannot control her talking. And I think like, I didn't realize it then. It used to be like, God damn it. And I felt singled out. But now, like when I go to places, like especially like European places or like Asia, like I'm like, ah! Like, I one time made a baby cry. I scared the shit out of a little Japanese baby because I was just this big, huge thing, I have that effect on people.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the reason I ask you about your voice is because I'm really obsessed with voices. And when people say like, oh, the eyes are the windows to the soul, I think that's very true. But I think the voice is just as big a window. And the voice that you have, it's a rare thing. That's like
Thank you.
I don't compare it, but it's up there with like Janis Joplin or even something like Karen Carpenter or these kind of really unique.
I wish. God, I wish.
No, but these really kind of unique voices. And when I saw you like in 2003 or something, it was around the time of the first album, and I've talked about it.
Oh my God, 2003 was Movement.
Yeah. I remember going to see you and just being absolutely blown away by how could that sound come out of three people. And everything was like 3 minutes long. So it was like super punk. It was like being punched in the face in the most loving way. The thing about your voice is, when I saw you recently in Berlin at Viva, your voice is still doing that. And it seems to me quite effortless in a way. And I wanted to know, like, have you had to work at it? Or you just have that voice?
No, I didn't. I mean, yeah, you know what? Personally, I don't like the sound of my voice. I hear it all the fucking time. It's kind of like what I always say about strip clubs. Like people are like, why don't you like go out with us? I'm like, because if I want to see titties, I look down. It was like that. It was like, I was always okay with it. Like I said, from a really young age, like I was encouraged, I got a lot of attention for it. People loved it. Because when you're a little kid and you're like a little chubby kid and you're like, hey, and you've got like ice cream on your face and your little belly's hanging out of your shirt that's a little too small because it's summer and you outgrew it, but your mom's not going to buy you new clothes until school.
Yeah.
But like, so you're that little fat kid and like, somebody be like, hey, I heard that that Patsy Cline, sing the Patsy Cline song. Sing them. Go ahead. Like, I remember I entered a talent show when I was in elementary and I didn't win. I grew up in a really conservative Christian place. I didn't go to Christian school. I remember a girl sang Brandy and, she did, no, 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 no. It got me saying, yeah, 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 yeah. Was it that one? Yeah. Or maybe she did, baby, baby. That's what she did. Baby, baby. Don't you know that you're so fine? So we sang like secular songs and everybody that won was Christian. And she pointed it out to me and it happened again a year later. And it happened again in the high school. And she was like, did you notice that?
Wow.
Wait a minute. We noticed that there's a bias. But like we knew that we could carry the tune. But yeah, it's the writing thing, the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not a poet. How do you write when you write a song?
I mean, I always wrote the lyrics first because writing stuff down for me has been a way of like getting stuff out. And I've been very mentally kind of stressed as a teenager. I had a lot of depression and I learned that writing stuff down was a way to articulate stuff. And sometimes it was never for someone to read, because I was quite depressed, I was always kind of hiding. And if you'd read what I was writing, you would have known.
Did you shrink? Like, did you make yourself small?
Yeah. I went inside. And like,
did you have friends? Were you a loner?
I did have friends, but I always felt kind of, I don't know.
Not did you have friends, but I mean, like, did you have your core group? Did you have your kids? Like you were like...
Eventually. Yeah. Eventually I was lucky enough to find them. And I kind of found them, through clubs and music and raves, basically. Like I was going to raves quite early on and I found them there and I thought, fuck, okay, great. Now I have a crew and it's not all bad, But I always started with the writing kind of things. And then it was a bit like, it was really difficult because a lot of the stuff I wrote was kind of, what would I say? Like it was kind of outing me as a depressed person.
Yeah. Like you were judging yourself for being pathetic.
Yeah. It was hard to like get behind it and be like, okay, well, I'm quite happy and smiley, but actually I feel awful.
But so you wrote it all down and then...
Yeah, I just kind of wrote it down and then I kind of have had to learn how to sing a bit. But I have to say, like, I sing at home and I just love it because I feel so amazing. But, I'm not a singer. But that's when I hear you.
See, I don't feel like a singer.
You don't?
A singer is a hobby. I feel like I'm a kitchen sink singer.
Really?
That's when I'm at my best.
Wow.
Because
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I just think that level of talent in you is like, it doesn't happen very often.
Thank you. I think that's really kind.
When I hear it, it's like queer gospel.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. I wish you could see my goosebumps.
It's faggotry gospel. Can you choose for me a record that reminds you of growing up?
There's a few things. It's like, it depends on what you're talking about, but it makes me nostalgic and like family and makes me feel like it wasn't about my connection to music, but it was about how my family really loves music. We like to talk music. It's not something we're aware of, but getting older, like Teddy grew up in a house that was very silent. There wasn't music around. They talked, but he grew up in a family that was like, it was rude to yell up the stairs. I was like, hell, we didn't have stairs. Like if you had stairs, you were fucking high on the hog, I think I knew one person that had a house with stairs and I was like, okay, god dang. I was like, must be nice, And I'd met other people as adults that were like, I would be like, you remember when you'd be in the car, this song was on the radio all the time. And they were like, no one ever played music. Teddy was like, no, we didn't listen to music in the car. I was like, what did you do? He was like, we just drove. And I was like, what? So like, that blew my mind because I didn't realize that people didn't listen to music.
Yeah.
But and it made me go, oh my God, I've taken for granted. I'd never looked back on how this appreciation of not just like songs on the radio, but like digging deep and talking about it. Like we would be eating fucking bologna and white bread forever. I'm like that thing about eating squirrel, whatever, and like talk about it all the time. But that shit was real. Like that's what we lived on. But I tell you fucking what, my dad had speakers that would blow your fucking mind always.
Boom.
We always had the best radio and record player. Always. It used to piss my mom off but she secretly loved it. It was a thing that she'd be like, listen to this, but you should listen to it in headphones.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the 80s. She was a Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd mom, but she also really loved like Genesis and Wham, but she was more into rock and roll and older rock and roll. She taught me how to like do the mashed potato. But when I think about that kind of stuff, but the things that made me feel warm and like quiet nights like that.
Yeah.
Some is country music, but that all comes from my dad. My mom did not do country music. And like Creedence Clearwater Revival, I remember this core memory that I have. My mom had bought my dad a box set of the vinyl. I was probably about 4 years old, and I was on my mom's lap. And we lived in this old ass fucking small rickety house. And I was a hefty kid. So I was sitting on my mom's lap, and we were in the rocking chair. And it was like a family event. It was like a big deal. This was expensive. You had to do like cash on delivery. It was like that. A big surprise for my dad. And I just remember being like, down on the corner, out in the street, Billy and the boys played, And I swear to God, my little fat ass fucking penguin belly flopped boom, onto the floor because I couldn't be contained. Wow. Skipped on my dad's brand new record. We were having this like beautiful, peaceful moment, and we were like, yeah, cool. What a surprise. What a treat. We got these badass records. And the whole family was listening to it. And I fucking ripped that fucking brand new record first go. But, it's like, what family does that? But with rock and roll, too, But, like, that is that. So Creedence is a big one. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, there's a very Southern nostalgia, but.
Did you have any queer siblings or family members? Because I'm always quite interested in, like.
I am, too.
Kind of, like, realizing our queerness. I mean, you talked about realizing your voice, which is also, like, a special gift in the world, if you like. But yeah. I kind of, that realizing that you were different or queer, and also, it could be an artist that you recognized. Like for me, it was Mark Almond. Like when I saw Mark Almond, I hid behind the sofa because it was so familiar, but I was also terrified of him. Like
you were afraid of how you felt.
Yeah, totally. And I knew that like people were fascinated by him, but they were criticizing him as well. But that was kind of, if I look back, I didn't have the language, but that was me kind of realizing my queerness.
Yeah, you were like, whoa, there's more to life than this.
Did you have a queer awakening with music, or someone that made you feel like?
I had a lot of queer awakenings. I don't know. Did you grow up in a religious house?
Very Catholic.
Yeah. Wow. Catholics were like another world to me. I've only been to one mass, and it was a christening actually. And I just remember being like, why the hell are we getting up and down so much?
Oh yeah.
But also because like I was raised by my mom. One thing she really did try to do, and you can't get it right because you don't know what you don't know, but she tried to see people's strengths and embrace them. You remember we were the We Are the World generation,
Oh yeah.
And it was really in the fucking consciousness. It was really in pop culture. It was like Feed the World, Live Aid, Farm Aid. There was all this, like, there was a lot of empathy and human, like, wanted change. People were stepping up. This is what I saw as a little girl. And I was like, God damn. And then there was, like, famine in Ethiopia. And there was, like, the news was covering it all the time. And I just remember being like.
You remember that?
Oh, my God. I remember sitting up at night and being like, Mom, are those babies going to be okay? Or like, Mom, I remember learning about the ozone layer and being like, fuck. I remember I was 6 years old. I was in first grade, and my sister came home talking about it. And I was like, what do you mean there's a fucking hole in the sky that's going to kill us all and disappear? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But my mom was always embraced it. She'd be like, okay, that feeling that you're having is like good. I remember there was like an after school special. There was like a gay kid on there. And I had already known at that time that I didn't understand what about like a penis, like a dick was. It didn't gross me out, but I always say it was like an elbow. It was like a shin. I was just like, all right. I was like, there's so much more going on. and there's so many more options. But like, I didn't feel guilty about it, or anything. And also that having a mom, I don't think she recognized it, but she recognized that I was on a different path of like, I was just like, Mom, I'm very aware of the world. I want to do something about it. We Are the World is teaching me. We are one. Like it was like Rainbow Children.
Yeah.
It was like 80s. And she would just be like, if we were watching television and there was something that was racist going on, if there was something that was homophobic, if it was like about like Islam. This is like when Saddam Hussein, like all this shit was happening, but my mom always addressed it, and the first thing she'd say is like, God, she'd be like, Beth, can you just imagine being those people? And she would paint the picture, like, and be like, they're over in this and they're doing that. And I don't think she was worrying me, but I really think she was like guiding me into that feeling and telling me that like that was almost like a power and a strength instead of making it worry. That's the kind of environment I was in. So there was that. But so my mom was also 24 when I was born.
Wow.
So I'm 4 years old. It's 1985. Who's on the fucking television in our town, in our conservative town?
Tell me.
MTV was taken away. We only had it for about 3 years. And it was in this time. And who was on television? Fucking Madonna Like a Virgin, Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual, Prince. The queerness, that encouraged, like, Cyndi Lauper was like, yes, like, I was like, that is where it's at. Like, what she's doing is what I want. Like, you're talking about Mark Holman, this same feeling where you're just like, I know now. Like, so I was like, I know now. There's no turning back. I have been exposed to something that is real and that I needed to see.
Mm-hmm.
It was like color. It was like Dorothy walking into Technicolor. It was like everything. It was like, you're like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
But the big one that stuck out for me is I had such a fixation with Boy George. Just such an insane fixation. I was obsessed. And here's the thing. I was little. I was tiny. So it was not like I was going out and buying the record. I wouldn't have fucking money to buy a record. My mom, whatever. I mean, she spent all of her money on the Creedence records that I destroyed. We didn't have any record money. There went all the record money. But like being a kid who was queer, understanding, had a mom who embraced the weirdness, encouraged the weirdness, and I think she saw herself. I think she was like, I see this little person that I know what they need. Like, she really did a really good job with that. To have that exposure and having somebody who encouraged you to have an open heart and be like, not just like, what is it like? Look at them, they're struggling, but also like, what a fucking party that is. Can you imagine fucking being there? It also works in the other way. You're like, oh yeah, there is more to life than this, and I want it. And there was no turning back.
Wow.
And I didn't understand. It wasn't like, Mama, why are they dressed like a girl? I was just like, I get it. It was not a confusion. It was just like, this makes sense. It made sense.
People mention George a fair bit on the podcast, and I think it's hard maybe to explain the impact of George at that time as well. It was just, you said it made sense. It made sense for me when I saw George as well. And it made sense for me when I saw Mark Almond. It made sense for me when I heard disco. And it was really...
Oh, yeah. Soul music?
Yeah. It's like...
Shaka Khan blew my mind.
Yeah.
I remember being like, yes. Like, it all made sense. It was like everything was so amped up to fucking 100.
Yeah.
We'd just gone from polyester, browns, and earth tones with a little bit of yellow and avocado green, which is what everybody loves right now. And then back into fucking neon and shine.
I think it's those people that are kind of living beyond the idea of what it is to be male or female, and they're embracing it and living it. And you're like, yeah, that kind of hybrid space, that's the space I'm going to live in. Maybe we didn't have enough examples of it before.
What town are you from?
I'm from like a little town outside of Belfast. So I grew up in Northern Ireland.
I liked Belfast.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I have a little, she's such a sweet little chubby dyke. And it was back in the days, and she put us up. But we stayed up all night because, back then you would go to the show and you would just hope that somebody'd let you stay at their house that night. You'd be like, does anybody have a place to put us up? And she put us up. And I just remember we talked all night, and it was just it was so fun. I didn't see any of the city, but I loved everybody. I felt really like everybody talked. People engaged. They were loud. They weren't afraid. They were affectionate. They wasn't afraid to like hug,
Yeah, people are sweet there. I think people are very sweet. And maybe, you kind of said like when you were growing up, like you put it well, you said like when it was the 80s, like where you grew up, technically it was the 70s. That was a little bit like when I grew up in Northern Ireland, because they had this situation called the Troubles.
Oh, of course. Fuck. That we actually, I didn't want to bring it up because traumas.
That's okay.
How old were you?
I was a kid, so like I was going to school during that time, and like there were soldiers and bombs, and I mean I didn't grow up in the thick of it, but like the town I grew up in got bombed.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. And you just kind of think it's normal because it is normal. Normal is what you're used to.
God.
Yeah.
Circles back to like just traumas and like how you build a defense and then that carries you through your life. That never goes away.
I want you to choose a Culture Club record. You have to choose one from your queer awakening.
I know Karma Chameleon, and what's the other song that's the sad song? Crying Game.
Oh, that was beautiful, yeah.
Oh my God. And like it was such a nice, like raw queer moment. Like it's just like, wow, what a fucking moment. But like it was more of a visual. Like I said, it's like technical. It's like you saw color for the first time. I think I heard Ozzy Osbourne say that about the Beatles. It was like you lived your life in black and white and all of a sudden there was color.
Yeah.
It was like that for me to see Boy George on the TV and have the name Boy George. It was like I didn't need it to be explained. In the moment, I didn't know. I just knew it was fascinating and exciting. But as an adult, I'm like, oh, I was just like, I was like, my people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there are people for me out there. I think Crying Game, I'm just going to say that because like, it's like a triple decker hit. That's just like a 1-2 punch.
We need to talk about your acting.
What is it called? It starts with an I. Is this an intervention?
No, it's
honey, we need to talk about your acting.
We need to talk about your acting. I watched you in, is it like He Won't Get Very Far or this movie? Like
He Won't Get Very Far.
You're so great in that movie.
That's really nice. Thank you.
What's it like being in a movie?
You know how Joaquin Phoenix has this like reputation?
Yeah.
And I don't feel intimidated by people very often, but there's a respect. And also I do understand, but not to the degree they do, that people don't get you right. And also that just like sometimes you're just not in the mood and that actually you're at work or whatever. And that I think he's got a funny sense of humor. And actually it's like some people get the joke and some people don't. And I sat down next to him because we had a scene. We hadn't really met. And my character was a Southern redneck woman. And the scene was over and he was like, I'm Joaquin. Well, he didn't even say it was not an introduction. He was just talking to me. He was like, blah, 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 blah. For his first question to me, he was like, oh, are we staying in character? And I was like, and I did, because I had never fucking acted before. So I was like, what? He's like, oh, are we staying in character? And I was like, I'm not. Are you? Are we? Because then I was like, wait, if we're staying in character, is this part of the character? Like, it was like, what is happening? I was like, is this some kind of like weird method shit? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't speak this language. And he was like, well, your accent. He's like, are you? And I was like, no, it's fucking real. This real. And he's like, oh. And then we talked about Arkansas and stuff. And he was so fucking awesome and so kind and so giving and not encouraging or whatever. But he was really fucking funny and he does not give a shit. He doesn't have time for people that don't. For like boredom, you know?
Yeah.
If it's not interesting, keep going. I don't think he can help it. I don't think he can hide his feelings.
Uh-huh.
But you know who intimidated me the most in that movie?
Who?
Kim Gordon.
Yeah, fair enough.
Kim Gordon was played one of the other people that because we were in AA.
Yeah.
The story is wild, but it's all Portland based. Gus Van Sant, Portland based. And that's the only reason I even got in the movie anyway. That's because it's like this queer, small Portland scene. And it trickled down, you know, and then I got that audition or whatever.
How was it with Sonic Youth, Kim Gordon?
It was just Kim. And the scenes are like really intimate and you're in the circle, you know, and like you have your lines or whatever. And you're really like encouraged to improv. And I mean, she's amazing. Now I've gotten to know her and I'm still so like taken aback by her. Like she's majestic. I know it's like, there's only a few people in my life that have made me feel that way. It's Grace Jones, Patti Smith, George Michael, like people like that. Like there's something about Kim Gordon that I'm just like, you're a fucking otherworldly. It's amazing. But she still, after all this time, makes me feel the most exciting fear, butterflies, back to teenager, like where you're like, I'm fucking with Kim Gordon right now. This is fucking
oh my God.
That's
wild.
But yeah, acting is weird. It's fun because you can just, the work's done for you and all you do is just show up and talk. That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or not, that's not the point. You just get in there and talk and leave. You know?
I thought you were great in that role.
Thank you. That's nice. I like to do it because I think it's good for your memory and your like brain health, like to have something that you have to work on that you're not used to.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not, talking about how like oh, my voice, I don't think it's great. Like but it is what it is. And yeah, eventually you have to accept it. But acting is not like that. It's a whole new world. But it's nice to be able to be like, oh, I don't have to write this. I don't have to think about this. This is your work. And I can just put it in your hands. And all I have to do is show up. But it's still creative because in everything else that we do, it's like really hands-on.
Yeah.
I never had a plan. I just want to say, when I was a little tiny girl, when you asked me what I was going to be, I'd be like, I'm going to sing songs and I want to be a singer. But every kid says that. I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be a veterinarian. But I was so confident. And I remember when I was 14, it was like peak grunge. I was just discovering Riot Girl, and I lived with my aunt. It was a very rough time for me. And my aunt said to me, she said, like, if you thought about like what you're going to do, and I was like, I don't know, but I can tell you, I know it won't be here. I knew it was like, not that like I knew that there was something out there, but it was like life just took me to Seattle. Grunge was big, and my best friend at the time, we were always like, we would sign our yearbooks, our annuals, see you in Seattle. We had plans. We were going to Seattle. We were going to be around grunge. And then it didn't dawn on me, this best friend, who is now my sister-in-law, is one of the people who dropped me off at the airport. First time I'd ever been anywhere. She gives me an envelope. She's like, open it on the plane. I'm not flying to Seattle. I'm flying to Olympia, which is 1 hour south of Seattle, which is the home of Riot Girl. I opened that thing on the plane. It was a calling card, and it said, just like our yearbook, she was like, I can't believe you're doing it.
Wow.
I'll see you in Seattle. And I was like, oh my God, she's right. It didn't dawn on me that I was like, it just happened.
Wow.
And it was all because I met this other cool group of friends that made me feel the way Boy George did when I was 14. It was Nathan and Kathy, who was the first drummer. And like my very best friend, Jerry Lynn, who was the first out like fag queer I ever knew. And like we were listening to Tori Amos, and like they introduced me to like punk rock, like actual punk rock, like Lung Leg and the Yummy Fur, and like all these really cool bands, and then like Huggy Bear. It was another Boy George moment. But the fact that I even met them, we didn't go to school together. I didn't have a phone. Nobody had a car. It just so happened from a coworker's daughter, I was introduced to this amazing, amazing fag that went to a school over in a town over. And we connected so hard that they would just show up at my house and hope that I was home. And I lived like 30 minutes away, driving. All just to say, like, there was something I knew, and it's back to my mom. It was just, I always knew. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm hoping for the best, but like, I never had a plan. And still to this day, I fucking hate plans.
Yeah.
But like that whole moment opened my mind, and it kept happening.
When you were moving to Olympia and dreaming of Portland and meeting Nathan and getting into like Riot Girl and grunge, can you pick a record or a track or an artist from then?
It's hard.
Yeah.
God, there's so many. Because there's this band called The Need.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved, it was like, when I moved to Olympia, I was there for 4 years. I didn't go to college. I was just like working. Everybody was in a band. It's just like, no one had a plan. No one was striving for fame. There, like you just worked your fast food job and you fucking went to band practice. You went to shows. It was fun, but like, and cheap and like good times. But like, there was this band called The Need. It was like post Riot Girl. So like, I moved there probably a year or two after Kathleen Hanna moved and Bikini Co broke up. So we missed all of that. But what we went into that never gets enough credit with Olympia, was what happened post Riot Girl, was this incredible, like, queer art, very queer, very punk. It's the first time I ever heard, like, I was meeting people who were talking about gender and gender fluidity, and like, it was like all these things. It was back in the days before there was a decision that everybody was like, the queers decided on they, them, and people were going Z and
oh yeah,
Z and Zer. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was back then. This is like 1999. But people don't, like, Olympia history and its queerness does not ever get that attention. So there were these bands that like there was Kicking Giant, and there was this person named Rachel Carnes. Like, punk music got on my nerves sometimes because I was like, it's not catchy, it's not good. Like, I'd never liked hardcore. I was like, what is this mess? Like, I didn't judge it, but it was just not my jam. But when I heard The Need, it was two fucking queers. You know who used to play with The Needs? Miranda July. Do you know who Miranda July is?
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Used to play with The Need a lot. It was back then. Miranda July used to be a lesbian separatist. of like a major performance artist. So it was all in that scene. It never gets that credit. There were things we did, Homo a Go-Go.
Uh-huh.
It was like a festival that was like Yo-Yo a Go-Go and Lady Fest, but it was queer. It was so fucking amazing. Imagine being 18 years old. I'd never been on a city bus. I'd never seen a city bus. I could take a bus to a fucking mall.
Wow.
We went to the mall once a year and it was an hour away. That was a trip. So all of a sudden, it was only 40,000 people. I was living in a metropolis. I was like, God, is this fucking Paris? In those pivotal moments, like it was when the first time I ever learned what a femme was. And I was like, that's me. Because it was confusing because I was like, I'm not attracted to girls, femmes that look like me, but I didn't know what the word, I didn't have the language yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was learning all that shit, and I was meeting other femmes, I was meeting other fat girls, and I was meeting people who like naming themselves different names every other week, and you were like, this is amazing. All of a sudden, it was Boy George again. It was like, this is all making sense.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like butch dykes, that not just butch, like it wasn't typical, it was fucking weirdos. But Rachel Carnes, she still draws her eyebrows on with Sharpie. And then she had these eyelashes that made it look like her eyes were taped open.
Uh-huh.
And she played drums standing up. But like, I would say a record from that, I'd be like, it's probably 9 years down and a mile wide. I think that's what it's called. Infect yourself with your friends. That's the line. But yeah, it's very like experimental. It never gets the credit it deserves. It's kind of like the way that I felt about when Fever Ray came around.
Oh, yeah.
Fever Ray is the polished version of The Need for me. And it's called The Need.
It's so good.
Like, I was like, what? Amazing. So The Need, I would say, or like, I do like, of course, Bikini Kill, I Stopped Talking an Hour Ago. Do you know that song?
Oh, no, but I love Bikini Kill.
Where it's just like how she's with a group of boys and she's with her boyfriend and she's going over to their house. It's just a song and she's just like, and the hook is like, I said, I want to come over. You say, okay, just come over. That's the verse. Your friends are all on the couch. Your friends say, let's walk around. I pretend your friends are my friends and try hard not to offend them. But I sort of just don't feel it right. And she's like, what she decided to be like, I stopped talking an hour ago. I stopped talking an hour ago. It's just about how like she was ignored. Nobody even noticed because no one paid attention to her because she was a girl in this like punk rock shitty boy scene.
Brilliant.
And like I think it's the simplest, most pure, rudimentary, but completely fucking brilliant song.
We've all been in that scenario as well. Can you give me a early gossip record that you feel like maybe defined your early career as an artist?
I don't listen to gossip records after that. It's like hard. I just hate it so much. And not because I'm critical, and it's just hard to listen to your voice. Like, I have to say the first 7-inch, and it's fucking raw, and like, it's amazing because like, you don't have any concept of like, especially from being fresh off the turnip truck. I thought every scene was like ours, and it was just a group of like 12 kids, and they were making mixtapes for each other. I didn't know that these were like really, really popular, well-known working businesses that were indie labels that like launched people's careers. Like I didn't know that like, Beck was on K Records and that's who we did our first 7-inch with. And I was 18 years old. I didn't know anything about recording. I didn't even realize this was a band. And all of a sudden we had a 7-inch. And all of a sudden it was like we were doing the artwork and taking pictures for this 7-inch. And like, they were it was back in the days. It was 1999. So they were in 2000. So they were mailing out the mail order and they'd put like a little info packet in that for kids who were ordering it. Like I'd say that record, like it's so amazing. It's different now, of course, because there's not a lot of tangible and there's so much instant gratification. But that feeling that you had your whole life and you would look, especially when you look up to artists and that's what you do and they make you feel seen and safe, to hold it in your hand and you're like, whoa.
So special.
I hope that people still get that feeling of like being like, seeing it and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mark of success. It was just like, this is as good as it gets.
Amazing.
And so you really took it in. You were just like, whoa, am I dreaming? So the first 7-inch.
Oh, wow.
And also when Hannah came along, I have to acknowledge that. But like, especially in those days, Kathy, Nathan, and I met in Arkansas. We're friends in Arkansas. The only reason I moved to Olympia is because I by chance met them. And Kathy went to college there. 3 of us followed her there. None of us went to college. So she like broke it open. And like, we're still friends to this day, 3,000 or 2,000 miles away from home.
Wow. We talk a lot on the podcast. Well, I talk a lot about mental health and sanity. I mean, sanity also kind of implies insanity. So I don't know if it's the right word, but I manage depression and I'm in recovery from addiction. And
are you? Wait, are you?
Yeah, I've had my struggles with that stuff, and I'm always really interested, because I feel like on one level, like we don't really talk about this stuff enough, and especially in raves. I don't know how it is really in the live music scene these days, but I know like in raves, a lot of people are kind of sharing their happiness because they might be a little bit like enhanced or high.
Well, let's be honest. Most everybody's on drugs or drinking or fucked up, and that's not a judgment. It's like, great, have a good time.
People have been altering their mental states from the beginning of time. It's fine. But I think like sometimes on the, the midweek stuff or where we're not in a group or that stuff, maybe we're not as happy to share. And I think a lot of people suffer alone. So I'm always interested to ask my guests, and I want to ask you, how do you stay well, A, as a queer person and also as a traveling artist? It's a struggle, I know, but how is your journey with that stuff?
I love that question. I love it. I think when you're older, and not to be that condescending, but it's just like, it dawned on me the other day. I was like, Beth, you're fucking 43. That's a thing. No longer, it's like you have peers who are pushing 60 now that are in your peer group. It's like, this is a time to start thinking about really what you are, and like what you do right now is going to affect how well the next 30 years goes for you. Like, fingers crossed, like it dawned on me. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm old and want to die tomorrow. But it's like, hey, you might want to start paying attention. That's been a struggle because I think I mentioned earlier, I don't stay in my body. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I've always been honest. Like, people call it oversharing, and I'm just like, well, this is how I am. It's like, if you don't want to hear it, I understand. I don't want to trauma dump on people, but COVID, I don't know what happened to me in COVID. I don't, and it's like there was so much loss, and honestly, like I was in that show Monarch and that was with like Susan Sarandon and Ann Friel about country music. We were supposed to be there for 4 months. I ended up being there for 9. It just kept getting extended. I consciously removed myself. And mind you, again, this is all during COVID, so there's all these measures. I'm very clean. I'm very Southern like I'm a bather. I shaved my legs every day. It was just something I did. It put me in touch with myself. And actually talking about this right now just made me realize, I think that was why I'm having a hard time being in my body now, is because I used to have this tradition that stopped. It was like, get up, no matter what, you put your fucking stupid eyeliner on. You put as much as you can on, you get up, you do that, and then you tackle the day. Mm-hmm. COVID hit. It wasn't even the trauma of it or something. It was just like, not even the isolation. You know what it's like when you travel and you live so far from the people you really love and are close to? Mm-hmm. So it's like best friends. I'm used to having distance and not seeing them. I've seen them every 3 months or something like that. It was something different. It was like I turned 40 in COVID. I did a solo record and it was awesome and it like exceeded my expectations. Like, I was like, oh my God, nobody's going to come to these shows and stuff. And then I was like, look, that was great. And it turned out I fell in love with Teddy and now we're together. It's the happiest I've ever been in this very solid, like everything else is in place, but not me. Mm. It's weird. I will lay on the couch. I had a friend came that I also grew up with in Arkansas. The fag I was talking about, Jerry. Fag. We say fag and dyke. I think it's just our age, right?
It's fine. It's family talk.
Yes, family talk. Love. But, I hadn't seen him in a few years, maybe like 5 years. He came into the house and he was staying with us for a while, like a long while, like a couple months. And he looked at me one day. He's like, what is going on? I mean, this person, again, I've known since I was 13. We lived in punk houses together. We shared a fucking like fold out couch living room. That was our bedroom with a group with like 4 other people. You know what I mean? We went through shit together and it was all fun and amazing. Mm-hmm. It was in that moment that I was just like, I don't know what's wrong. It wasn't dread. I had no energy. Like when I would wake up and it was summer and it's like England, like I was saying, it's like the UK, not England, but the UK, where those days when the sun's out, you're like, get it in because you're going to be stuck inside. There's no sunny winter. Yeah. Like it is in the Midwest or like it will be in Germany or something or like France. And I would just look at the sun and I'd be like, God, I get out of, like, disappear. I waited for it to be dark. I waited for Teddy, there were nights I waited for Teddy to fall asleep so that I could just be nothing, but feel everything at the same time. I don't know what it was. And I still don't know what it is. I'm getting better, and I switched medication. I'm a firm believer in meds.
I'm on meds too. Yeah.
I love it. Like, and I have been since I was 17. Like, you know, you're talking about depression and writing. Same.
I mean, meds get a lot of critique and criticism, but I just think, you know, if someone has diabetes, you don't say, hey, don't take the medication.
Here's another thing too. When you're in a creative scene, when you're in that and people are like walking around with open wounds all the time. So because to access that, and if you are seeing people and you are putting things, especially if you have a brain that's ADD brain, and you see everything at once.
Yeah.
Like it's the part of the not focusing. Like if I walk into a room, I didn't know that other people didn't do this until like 3 years ago. Not joking. When I walk into a room, I'll be like, scan. I can tell you what they're talking about. I can tell you what they're wearing. I can do this. I hear it all.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that thing where you're like, I'm an empath. I feel your vibe. And I'm like, no. I can hear your conversation and I know exactly what you're going through. And you just are like, whoa. You're taking in all this information all the time. It's overwhelming. And because we are people and you are around activist communities and you are around people who are like demand change, and there is so much trauma, and it is a fucking time of wild ass turmoil that people in our age who live in the countries that we live in haven't seen. And the fear that we're feeling, I mean, not you actually, I'm sorry, that was a generalization because you fucking grew up in the Troubles.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody has it to some degree, I think. Like
they do.
What music do you listen to when times are tough?
I like Nina Simone. There's so many things. You know what I'm listening to right now? Remember when I came in hot and I was like, okay, we need to talk about.
Yeah.
God, so because we've been so deep and meaningful, but right now I love Kendrick Lamar. I fucking love Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
I like Drake too. You know, the way I see it is like, you two aren't the same. So why is there a competition? Like you're not the same thing. That's the thing. It's like Kendrick Lamar is like, one of the lines is like, we miss the actor. He's like, remember when you were true to yourself and like your past and your story and nobody had beef with you and then you got weird. And then like, I relate to it in this punk rock way where I'm like, Kendrick, you just made a fucking masterpiece and it wasn't overproduced. It wasn't overthought. It was purely natural. It was so punk and it was so like raw. So that's what I'm into right now. That's getting me along.
I have to thank you for lots of things. I have to thank you for the podcast. But I want to also thank you, you know, because we live in this time where people kind of get certain credit for being a queer icon or something, but they haven't really done anything. For example, people out there in the music industry that maybe don't use their position to speak out on really valuable stuff. And you do. It's not my business to speak for the community, but for me, I'm so grateful for that because you fucking, you know, you walk the talk, you talk the walk, you put your money where the mouth is.
I try my best.
Yeah, and part of that is by default of who you are, but it's also...
it's a decision. Someday you wake up and you're like, how am I going to engage and contribute to the goodness? Do I have the energy to engage and contribute in the goodness? In your 20s, you're ramped up, you're excited, you're learning, you're meeting new people, you're open and like, you're fucking fired up. And sometimes you're fired up, but you don't even actually understand it, like really, really get it because you're learning things so fast that you don't have time to like, contemplate on them and stuff like that. Like it's a lot of education to take in. It's a lot of identity. It's a lot. But it's like now it's like I take my time and I want to devote knowledge and facts and talk to people that I trust. It would be nice if we could actually like make an impact and like be like, hey, listen, eyes on the prize, no infighting. I think there's a lot of, when you're young, there's some things that can happen, you know, like my friend and I talk about it. My friend Tashi, that I was telling you about earlier, she's a straight cis Black woman. I'm a queer cis white woman. We have very similar upbringings. We have a language that other people don't speak because other people didn't go through the shit we went through. But something she and I talk about all the time, and not like, and this is just us as being best friends, is that like how we hear a lot of young people and it's like, this is not the fucking oppression Olympics. It's not a competition. I've felt that way before. Like I own it. I'm not saying y'all people out there, but I can see myself in my past being like, I can do this or whatever because I went through this or like I've been through this. But you know what? That's not getting anywhere. It's like, take that energy that you're putting towards somebody who is on your side. We hope.
Yeah.
And we have to have some kind of trust and compassion and like listen
Yes.
and try our best. And that's all we can do. And sometimes you just have to be like, we fucking tried our best.
And we have to remember that the goal, isn't to be special and different or separatist, but it's to find similarity and find solution. And it might mean that we don't agree on everything, but we can agree on some things.
It's the James Baldwin quote, right? That's like, I don't know it direct, like verbatim, but it's like the sentiment is like, we can agree to disagree as long as your disagreement doesn't affect my rights. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, that's fine. And then there's the Nina Simone quote that's like, you don't have to live next to me. You don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality. Everybody knows. Like, that line is it. It's just like, honestly, I don't give a fuck what you think about me, but I hope for the best for you. That's the thing.
Yeah. There's this quote, which I love, and it says, freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. And I love that quote because it's like it puts you in a place of power.
And I don't want us to give away feeling empowered because we're afraid of each other.
Oh, wow.
If you don't have the energy right now, like sister, brother, whatever, sister, brother, any other, like let me carry you.
Yep.
And you sit this one out and you let me know when you're ready. And I hope that when I need you, you'll be there. That's the community, I think, that we need. Compassion, love, forgiveness, patience, and accountability. And all those things can exist, but we gotta calm the fuck down.
You've been listening to Queerly Beloved with me, Cormac. Since you've listened right to the end, I wanted to give you a heads up that for each series of Queerly Beloved, I want to start highlighting the work of a queer charity or organisation worth supporting. For season 2, I've chosen notaphase.org, a charity committed to supporting and uplifting the lives of trans adults through community and joy. You can find a link to Not a Phase at the link in the episode description, as well as playlists for all the music mentioned in today's episode and every episode. While you're there, please do hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my conversations with more talented people. A big thanks to Michael Lane, my producer, to my manager, Melissa Taylor at Tailored Communication, and of course to Amazon Music for their support, and to you, the listener. Until next time, take care of yourself. All the best. Bye.